Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Warhoundcast. I'm here today with Nathan.
Hello.
And we're going to be going through Faith and Fury. No Leo or Rich this time. The filthy heretics is kind of taking centre stage in this book, so we drove them off for a week. Although we will go over the marine stuff first as well. I haven't read any of the lore at all. I haven't had a chance to go through all that yet. I'm guessing you haven't either, Nathan.
No, well, this is the first time I've seen the book, so
Okay. There is lore in the book. We can
it'll
confirm.
Be a fresh set of eyes, as it were.
And there are also some missions which I guess the sort of general public will ignore as well. Have you done any of the missions from any of the other campaign books ever?
No, I can't recall ever doing any. Although I think in one of our Warhounds campaigns, I'm pretty sure everyone had to do one of the narrative missions for on one of the weeks. And that's the only time I've ever played one of those additional missions.
I did at the end of 7th. Me and Andy, who was someone in the old club that I played with, Foundry Gaming in Tunbridge Wells. I guess technically in close to Tunbridge Wells now, Russell now. We did the Fall of Cadia missions because he had a guard army and I had my chaos, and we did a few of those, which was quite fun.
Okay.
But yeah, before we get onto the book, what have you been doing gaming wise or hobby wise?
So in the last podcast, me and Leo were desperately rushing to get our armies painted for the next day because we had a doubles tournament. So that's been and gone. That was on the Saturday just gone, which it went really well. It went really well for me and my partner. So we ended up coming second, which is pretty good. We won. So just to go over our armies again, we were running 2 super heavies of Tyrannus Knights. So I was running 2 Moirax with Gravitons. He had 2 Helverins, and we both had a Crusader. He had one with a rapid fire battle cannon. I had a thermal cannon. And then it was basically just a loyal 32 with a mortar team and then a rusty 17. And yeah, it was pretty brutal for almost everyone that we came up against. So round 1, we went up against Salamanders and Eldar. And I just want to point out as well, I took the Moirax with the Gravitons as a tech choice because we were anticipating that there was going to be a lot of Space Marines, and I'm pretty sure in round 1 there wasn't a single table that didn't at least have 1 Space Marines player or detachment, which is just crazy. So it turned out that the Moirax were a really good tech choice in the first match against Salamanders and Eldar. They couldn't really. We did seize on them, but we spoke it out with the opponents as well because the game was kind of over on turn 3. My Moirax turn 1, just one of them single-handedly killed a Leviathan Dreadnought.
Ooh, so they're tough as well, aren't they?
Yeah. So I think I rolled really high on the shots. I think I rolled 11 shots, and yeah, and I rolled pretty high on the wounds. I think I got 6 through, and he made barely any of his. Well, I think I got 6 through. He made 2 of his invulnerable saves. 4 of them went through, but because it's flat 4 damage, it was still 16 damage. So I just killed him straight away.
Brutal.
Yeah, so that kind of got both Moirax points back turn 1, and that was the first bit of shooting that I did. And then it just kind of it was much the same from there. So we won that 27-1, and then the next game was actually against Rich, who was on the last podcast, and Stuart, their team.
Is it the same list they had in your battle report?
Basically, yeah. Stuart replaced his Vortex Beast with another caster, I think. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he replaced it with another caster, and then a few bits and bobs here and there. But for the mainly it was the same list. And I think we went first again, and our first turn, I think we managed to clear the vast majority of Rich's stuff out, which was sort of their ranged firepower. I think I put my thermal cannon into his repulsor and I failed to do anything to it. But then they didn't really. So their turn 2 was trying to sort of come back on board control. Stuart dark matter crystalled his rubrics across the board onto an objective that they needed to hold. I can't remember what the mission was. I I think the mission was 4 pillars, so he had to basically just teleport his rubrics across the board to stay in the game, basically. But the next turn we basically killed the rubrics and killed the rest of Rich's stuff. So I got pretty lucky with my thermal cannon and essentially killed his repulsor executioner in one go with the thermal cannon.
That's the thing about the thermal cannon. It's such a powerful but such a swingy weapon.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it was swingy in that game anyway, because the first turn I'm pretty sure I did 2 damage to it, and then the next turn I did like 18 or something stupid to it. So, but yeah, it was very much the same in that they couldn't really do anything really
You've
against
got a lot of armor in that list, so if you get rid of that anti-tank early, it's hard to
Yeah. So at this point, so we won that game. I believe it was 15-2 because it wasn't a very high scoring game, but we managed to get almost all the points apart from a hold more on the second turn, I think, or the first turn. So we basically max pointed both the first and second game. Second game we were playing on table 1 anyway, so going into the third game we were on table 1 as well. We were playing Rob and Andy was playing Imperial Fists with 3 Grav Centurions, and he had a Redemptor and then just loads of Stalker Bolt Rifles, I think. And Rob was playing actually a pretty cool list. He had a Drakari Battalion, which was witches and also incubi. So he had like a succubus, 3 units of witches. He had 4 raiders with disintegrators to ferry everyone around. But he then had Drazar and a unit of incubi as well. And then he had, I believe it was a Vanguard, but he basically just took loads of aspect warriors. So he had a Warlock, Skyrunner, and I believe that was his only HQ from Craft Worlds. And then he had 2 units of Striking Scorpions and a unit of Howling Banshees. So it was a really sort of like mixed list. And we were doing pretty well in that. And it all kind of turned around. So it was quite close. I think we whiffed our first turn quite badly, but then they couldn't really do anything in their first turn just because all they could shoot at was our knights. I think Andy put his Grav Centurions into one of my Moirax, which I rotated Ion Shields on, and then I got really lucky with the save, so nothing really happened there. Our second turn was a bit better. I'm pretty sure we got rid of most of the raiders on our second turn, and my Moirax again basically killed an entire unit of Centurions all by itself, which is such a good tech choice for the tournament. And then basically it all turned around because Drazar got into combat, and I think Rob gave him I can't remember how his rules work, but basically he was I think he was re-rolling all hits and all wounds. He was definitely re-rolling all wounds, but basically Drazar got into combat with my teammates Crusader, and Drazar fights twice now. And the first turn of combat, I think he got like 7 attacks, and they all hit. He rolled the wounds, and I think he rolled 3 6s, and then he re-rolled, and he rolled another like 3 6s. And my teammate failed all the saves. And if Drazar gets 6s, it's flat 4 damage. So Rob got quite lucky with the wound rolls there, and I believe he almost killed the knight like outright in that turn. We did a little bit of toing and throwing. I think I interrupted, or one of us interrupted, to try and sort of stop the attack somewhere else. And then Drazar fought again, and I believe Drazar killed the knight. My teammate rolled because we were Tyrannus, and it came back to life. It came back to life on 2 wounds, I think. In our turn, he moved that knight onto the center objective because it was Vital Intelligence. I think it was the one where you basically allocate intel points to characters, and then they have to hold the objectives or survive.
Not a particular fan of that one, but
no, it's a bit
it can be very swingy.
Yeah, depending on what your army composition is, it can either be like really swingy or just like sometimes
almost irrelevant, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this was, I believe this was turn 3. So my teammate moved his nearly dead knight onto the objective. Rob consolidated his striking scorpions around. My knight wasn't in combat, so I couldn't fall back over them. So that turn, I couldn't move my knight out of where he was to get closer to the objective, because basically both of our big knights were our intel points as well as one of my company commanders, I think. And essentially, in the next shooting phase, on Rob's turn, he managed to kill Dennis's knight with the little shooting that he had left. I think he had like 2 really small units of Stalker bolt rifles, and that was it. So he managed to kill Dennis's knight, and then with the Tyrannus roll and a re-roll, failed to get back up. So we lost out on a point there, and then my knight couldn't get any closer because he couldn't move over the striking scorpions. So, and the time was running out at that point, and actually we only got another turn in, and by that time I couldn't get my my knight close enough to the objective to get it. So basically, what we had to do to draw the game, because the game was drawn at this point, it's another one of those ones where, like, we've got knights, so they're really hard to kill and get the intel points off the board. And then Rob and Andy, they specified their characters that could basically, I think Andy took 2 of the points and then Rob took 1 of them. Their characters were just sitting back behind everyone, so we couldn't shoot them or anything. So basically, we were both scoring exactly the same every turn up until sort of end of turn 3, start of turn 4. Because they killed my partner's knight, that netted them Warlord, because his knight was his Warlord, and also obviously got rid of one of our intel points as well. So they actually scored more that turn. Because the time was running out, we had to end the game on turn 4. And it ended up that I could get in a position where I could put my knight into all of their intel point characters. So I basically got them off the board so that they didn't score at the end of the turn, and that it basically drew the game.
So going into next turns, they wouldn't have been able to score any more points realistically.
Yeah, so we sort of, like, the tournament organisers basically said, because we'd already run over, they said just do the final turn and then that's it, and we'll call it there. We both teams kind of agreed that if the game went on, we would have won, but we just called it a draw anyway, just because it was obviously so unbelievably close. It was a really good game, and a really swingy game as well. There were so many points in it that were real, like, nail biters, like the knight getting back up and Drazar, like, almost soloing the knight. Well, we did solo the knight. Yeah, just stuff like that. So what actually happened was we would have come first, but because we drew, it was done by, like, basically your tournament points were done on wins. So if you got a win, you got 3 points. If you got a draw, you got 1. If you got a loss, you got 0. So actually, there was another Michael and his teammate, I can't remember. Oh, Angus. They were below us, but because they went 3-0, they actually, like, shot and overtook us on the tournament points. And the person that was supposed to be third, or would have come third had this game not have been a draw, actually came like 4th or 5th. And then Rob and Andy, because they drew the game, they actually sat at 3rd, and we got 4th because of our the amount of victory points that we got. So yeah, it was really good. It was a really good tournament. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to. I mean, I spoke about that for quite a while. So
that's cool. It's always interesting getting a tournament report. So I wasn't at the tournament. I was at a friend's birthday, which was also good, but probably not the sort of thing you want to hear about on the 40k podcast. So I played Max on the Monday with my sort of Eldar Vibro Cannon list, and it was a good game because it was one that Max had his Raven Guard out, and it was it's the first time I think I've actually played Marine since I sort of rebuilt my Elder list away from Malatok and towards Expert Crafters. And so far, the Expert Crafter list has had the expert crafter be the sort of star of the show, but playing Marines, I finally got to see the ignore cover in action, especially against Raven Guard. It's such a popular successor trait.
Yep.
And it was nice to see that in action at last, because most of the games I've played it with, it hasn't really come up. There's been a couple of times where I've had to snipe a mortar team or something out of cover, which is kind of like, oh, that's nice, but whatever. And to see it finally in action, sort of in all its glory, was really good. It was a good game. I got seized on, which was a bit of a pain. Max threw a couple of, I want to forget, the new Scouty Primaris Tube choice up into my Vibro can.
The ones with the that can lay the bombs.
He had different versions of them. I can't remember what they're called. It starts with an I and ends with an S, and I get confused between all the really stuff like that. But it was cool, and it was after his turn too. He'd done a lot of damage. Most of my Vibros were dead. He'd melted one of my Wraith Lords with some deep striking plasma interceptors, and I was really struggling. But one of my Wraith Lords just got into the middle of the table and started smashing things in combat left and right. And Max didn't have that sort of the smash captain to go and get him back. He had Shrike in his list, but Shrike went off after a Night Spinner, didn't manage to kill it, and then got obliterated in return. And that was the key moment. The Wraith Lord in the middle, just slowly punching things with his reroll hitting wounds, and even with Max throwing some transhuman physiologies where he wasn't able to sort of stop the onslaught and ran out of bodies, which was really cool. I really like Wraith Lords, and I keep on wanting to put them in lists for a long time, and now they've got the reroll hit and wound from Expert Crafters. They're a really good choice, and I'm really liking them.
It's amazing how like the book came out and people weren't really that stoked about it, and then you get all these sort of like not quirky builds, but like builds that make really good use of the new like stuff. That I think it's just like there's so many different books coming out now with like Psychic Awakening and the new Space Marine supplements and then chapter approved and all of that. Like there's people's armies are just absolutely all over the place at the moment, especially that like people are trying to figure out how to sort of like counter the Space Marine meta as well. Everything's just changing like so quickly.
It's a really cool time if you're a list builder. If you're someone that net lists, and there's no shame in doing that. Probably quite hard to keep up, especially as we're in December now. The tournament meta is probably at its slowest point going into Christmas.
Yeah.
So those sort of big tournaments aren't happening, and that sort of ability to copy list isn't there. Whereas if you're someone that likes to go and do your own thing, even the Space Marine books, there are still loads of like the successor chapter things that haven't been run that are quite good. There's Elder stuff. There's obviously the new Chaos stuff, and a little bit more Marine stuff we're going through today. And of course, as well, we'll probably do next week the Blood of Baal stuff. The Nid stuff in that looks really cool.
Yep,
I know.
I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, the first time I looked at it, I saw some of the stratagems and they're like, oh, they're really good. They're like exocrines and stuff. Look really powerful now. But then even the sort of the custom chapter traits, I initially wasn't sold on them. And then Stuart again and yourself started pointing out some of the really cool combos you could do. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I need to have another look at these.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, like it was really overshadowed by the Blood Angels thing, because the Blood Angels section is pretty much a fleshed out supplement. Like this book with the Black Templars, but I'm actually really excited for a lot of the Tyrannid stuff. Like I've only just started playing Tyrannids. Like my Tyrannid army is an eBay rescue army, so every single thing is bought off of eBay, like in an absolute state. I'm basically stripping it and then redoing it. Yeah, well, I mean, with the new book, like we kind of had a look through there, and I know Stuart had a load of input because he is basically he mains Tyranids. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, like loads of the points that he made, like I hadn't thought about, like the Behemoth or Behemoth, however you want to say it. Their new psychic power that gives you +1 to wound. And suddenly that's like, okay, so I could cast that on a unit of Gene Stealers, and then their Rending Claws are going off on 5s, right? And
suddenly as well go off the same time, I think.
Yeah. So suddenly, I pay a few more points and get Toxin Sacks on them. I'm doing flat 2 damage on 5s at -3.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's really cool, but how do I get the Behemoth ones in? And it's like, okay, well, I've now got 2 stratagems which have like a
3d6 charge.
Yeah, which have like specific activations that you've got to do, but it gives you a 3d6 charge. So suddenly you're like, okay, so I can actually deep strike Gene Stealers, like how in one of the many ways that you can do it, but also like it brings other things with the different. I can't remember what they're called. It's like adaptions.
Oh,
Is it
adaptive
adaptions?
physiology, I think it is.
Yeah, that's the one. So like you can give a Gene Stealer unit 2d6 consolidate, which is crazy. Like, or
Oh,
you can
it's
give,
the
yeah, like
shenanigans you can get up with that, especially for a unit that's already blisteringly fast and can double move,
yeah,
is
yeah.
brilliant. Because
And then you've got, sorry, go on.
I was going to say the big weakness of my army is that I can defend against deep strike charges quite well with lots of grab tanks. But I don't actually have that much screening against infantry because it's essentially gone out of the meta with Space Marines. And
Yep.
having that sort of Gene Stealer rush that can run in and tie up an entire army's worth of vibro cannons is something that terrifies me.
So you've got like your standard kind of Tyranid build. Nothing's really changed, and I think that's what people were kind of focusing on when it first came out. I don't want to talk too much about it, but like obviously you've got the pretty much the standard across the board. Apart from it, there's a couple of builds. There's like Carnifex spam. There's like a list with like 200 to 300 termagants, and then there's like the standard like Kraken Gene Stealer rush. I think people were like focusing on that, going, "Oh, it hasn't changed anything," but actually it has. You just need to those combos just need to come out. It's the same as
Yeah.
like the like the previous books. People were sort of looking at that, going, "Well, there's not really a lot that you can do," but actually, like you just need to basically bin all of your lists and redo them,
Yeah,
basically.
it's good that as a general thing, these books and chapter approved have benefited the stuff that's not already the established power stuff. So if you look at, say, let's take Necrons for an example, just to keep Dennis happy. But all of the stuff that was very popular in the Necron builds, the Doomsday Arcs and so on, things weren't touched. All the other stuff got changed, and that adds a lot to the sort of Necron build for the stuff that needs it, or even the stuff that's actually quite powerful untouched. But
Yeah. Then it's kind of the same with this, because like the list that I'm looking at, as well as, so I'm looking at basically like a triple battalion. There's a battalion specifically geared towards the standard Gene Stealer rush, so it's got everything that you sort of have in it anyway. Swarm Lord, unit Gene Stealers, and then just some Rippers just to flesh out the battalion, and a Brood Lord. And I've got Behemoth or Behemoth battalion that uses all the new rules. So it's got a unit of Gene Stealers with Toxin Sacks. I've got a Tyrannicist to deep strike them, and then a few other bits and bobs that.
the drop pod one, sorry.
Yeah, drop pod. And then there's a few other bits of like other combos you can do. But then I've got a Jormungandr battalion, which is if for those of you that don't know, their stratagem basically allows you to deep strike. I think it's infantry. You can deep
Infantry
strike,
or a monster, I think.
yeah. So you can deep strike. You basically pay 1 CP at the start of the game, and you can keep doing that. It's not a once per game thing, and you can just keep doing it. You can deep strike as many as you want, or as many as you can. So it's basically a Tyranid warrior bomb, I guess you would call it. They've all got adrenal glands and toxin sacs, so 6 is flat 2 damage, and they've got +1 to charge. They're all equipped with devourers, so they can put out 27 heavy bolter shots. And they've all got bone swords, so they get an extra attack. So they've got 4 attacks each, strength 4 -2, 1 damage or 2 damage on 6s. So with your manga, you can deep strike them, and then I've also got Tyranid Prime with the exact same loadout. So you could do that before, but there wasn't really any way of getting them into combat. But with one of the 3d6, well, actually both of them, with both of the 3d6 charge stratagems, one of them to meet the criteria of being able to use the stratagem, you have to already have a synapse unit within an inch of the enemy that you're charging, which you could do from the Tyranid Prime. But the Tyranid warriors are a synapse unit anyway. But specifically for the Tyranid Prime, because there's a new relic that gives you a +1. Is it +1 to your charges? No, I don't think it is. I think it's just it lets you roll another dice. So he already has a 3d6 charge now. So you got a 3d6, pick the two highest on that one, and then because he's a synapse creature, that meets the criteria of one of the other 3d6 charge stratagems. So then you can 3d6 charge the warriors in as well.
That's,
But then there's the other 3d6 charge stratagem is if a synapse unit has already killed a model from the unit that you're charging, then you can get a 3d6 charge as well. And because warriors have their own shooting and their own synapse unit, you can do that straight off the bat anyway with them. So there's no real like support needed for doing that.
When I say self-contained little bubble.
Yeah, so there's like it's added all these like little tools that you can use to basically make units that weren't really seeing any play, like see play now. And there's some really cool sort of combos and stuff that you can do. So yeah, it should be good.
Yeah, look forward to that. Look forward to more of that sort of stuff next week, I hope.
Yeah, we should go over the whole thing because there's a lot of changes in there.
But should we start on Faith and Fury then?
Yep.
So first thing, we're kind of going through the book as it is. Should we start off with the new litanies that the Space Marines get?
Yeah,
but
it's probably worth just saying. So Faith and Fury, it's the second book in the Psychic Awakening, and this contains rules for Black Templars and all of the, I believe is the original bar Black Legion.
Yeah, so Word Bearers, Night Lords, Alpha Legion, Iron Warriors, Emperor's Children, World Eaters.
And I'm going to sound a little bit salty here, but it also contains another rule set for Space Marines.
Yeah, just because
for some reason.
They needed some love. They needed some love, didn't they?
Yeah, they needed some love. Space Marine players didn't have enough books already. So
yeah, it's a slight shame that arguably the most powerful stuff is in the Space Marine stuff of this book. Chaos gets some really good stuff, but Space Marines come out of it quite well, which well, can't do anything about that. But yeah, so chapter litanies.
Yeah, so this is the just the normal Space Marine rules at the moment. So do you want to take it away?
Yeah, so I'm gonna start off with the White Scars one. Strike off the head. When you get the listening off, melee weapons within 6 of the chaplain get to re-roll the wound, which is really, really powerful. White Scars are an army that wants to and have the tools to get into combat quickly and have very powerful things. Centurions, obviously, the obvious example. It's probably not so good on the Centurions because their wound rolls are so good already. But if you do need to look at a knight and something like, yes, I need to make sure that's dead, that's amazing. And if you've got a sort of second wave of troops that isn't Centurions, then again, that's just anything that allows you to reroll dice is really powerful. It is limited to melee, which is a good thing. And as it's full rerolls, it's just such a powerful ability that it's just very, very. It's a very good incentive to run White Scars over something like Raven Guard, who are sort of in a similar bubble for the same thing.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty good. You can obviously you can deep strike. You're probably going to be using this on a chaplain with a jump pack, with White Scars, and also there's some new rules for like other special characters a bit further on after this, that basically allows your chaplain to do 2 rules as well. So you can actually get a chaplain that's like re-rolling all hits and wounds, basically.
The one thing to say is, if it wasn't for Legends, I think this would be more common on the sort of biker chaplain, just because the roll goes off at the start of the turn. So if you're deep striking in, you can't deep strike into it.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah. Any catch your eye?
I mean, should we carry on and go through the rest of them? So we've done the White Scars one.
The Fists one get to Overwatch on 5 and 6s.
Yep.
That kind of goes in the whatever category. It's a powerful ability, but the fact that it's Overwatch only, and I'm not. Yeah, I think you're more likely to be focused on other ones, probably.
Yeah,
There's plus
I
one to
think
win
you're.
one.
I think you're probably going to go for better litanies than that.
Yeah, it's
Consi-
solid if you're playing something like Gene Stealer Cult and you know there's a unit coming out of Deep Strike. It's a nice thing to have, but it's not the thing that jumps out at me.
Yep.
Salamanders get to heroically intervene within 6 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Again, powerful ability, but the Salamanders have such good Overwatch with their sort of flames and things. I don't think it's sort of necessary or a first choice pick again.
Yeah, I agree. It's I wouldn't even say it's like fluffy. It's just another rule, really. I don't think you're going to be picking that over anything else, to be honest.
Yeah. Iron Hands get +1 strength. I mean, every Iron Hands list I've thought has been some sort of horrendous gun line of some sort, whether it's planes or tanks. So that goes in the sure whatever category again in my head.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be replacing Catechism of Fire with that.
Ultramarines get to you can re-roll ones when advancing and charging for units within 6. Again, that feels like Ultramarines tend to be slightly more mobile with their infantry than some armies, but again, the fact if it was re-roll, if it was re-roll any dice roll when advancing and charging, that goes into quite powerful. But as it's only ones, that goes in the sure whatever category again for me.
Yeah, I don't. Just because it's only re-roll ones. If it was re-roll, you can re-roll any of them. Then that's not that bad. If you want to make your list a little bit more mobile, especially for like Ultramarines, generally they're a very like castly list.
Maybe we're just biased of that opinion because we always play against Leo. But
yeah, I don't think that's very good. When it's just re-rolling ones, like most of the time you've got to cast this at the start of the battle round in anticipation that you're going to roll one.
Yeah,
and you might not even do that anyway. Like, yeah, just
save a command point for a charge reroll.
Yeah.
And finally, Raven Guard gets to. This is the select one. Most of the others are aura abilities. Select one Raven Guard unit within 6. That model can shoot in a turn which it fell back. If it has fly, it can charge. Again, good ability. I think if it was a stratagem, it would be more useful.
I think this one's quite good. Purely because most of the like strong Raven Guard builds using Assault Centurions, there might be a time when you need to fall back and then use their Hurricane Bolters and whatnot, and then charge them back in.
Yeah, I think it's a very powerful stratagem. I just don't think it's the right army again, because I think as a Raven Guard player, typically you're the aggressor, possibly with aggressors, and you're not going to be the one worried about falling back so much. It's the opponent that is.
Yeah, it's kind of a. I think if you're looking at this from being a Raven Guard, like aggressive Raven Guard player, this is like a win more kind of thing. In that, like, you've probably already got your Assault Centurions in, and you've probably already killed like 2 or 3 units with the Hurricane Bolters and the Flamers if you're running them as successors and whatnot. I just think if you were going to then fall back, shoot, and then charge back in again, like you probably were going to kill everything anyway. If you've got to that point. Although it is an interesting choice with the new stratagems for making other basically like chief characters. So if you did have a jump pack chaplain, and you could take basically this one and the +2 to charge, that's pretty good. Just to have that sort of.
It's worth remembering for Raven Guard, they do have -1 to hit on infantry as their sort of secondary ability of their chapter tactic, and you could potentially build a Raven Guard sort of infantry gun line around that, and then have a chaplain to be used in that sort of thing as a defensive thing. I'm not sure that's the best build for them, but it's potentially a thing.
I think that's all right. I think it's as kind of like a tech choice. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
So it is certainly better than some of the other ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's the litanies. There's just a few of them. I'm not entirely sure why this wasn't in the Space Marine book, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not overly worried about that.
Yeah,
But
there's nothing that here that jumps out at me as it's super overpowered.
keep an eye on the White Scars one.
Yeah, that's quite good. Yeah, that's quite good. Like you said though, with Legends gone, you would have to actually have a like jump pack chaplain on the board and already be moving up. You're probably going to be deep striking your stuff turn 3 so that you're in the assault doctrine as White Scars.
Matchup dependent, but yeah.
Yeah, not sure about that one. It seems good. I just think missing the chaplain biker now, like, yeah, not sure about that one.
So going on to the character stratagem for Marine Scott, essentially this allows you to upgrade kind of one of each of the sort of typical default Space Marine heroes or HQs. So keeping on with the sort of theme so far, the chaplain, you can spend a CP to allow him to know an additional litany and to cast additional litany, which is huge. Chaplains were already a very good choice. The Ultramarine special character is already a really powerful option. So this is just if you're taking a chaplain, I think you spend a CP on this every single time.
Yep. Yeah, it's really good. The warlord, like if you were gonna make, I'm sure there's better warlord traits, but even the warlord traits and stuff, you look at them and you're like, yeah, that's actually really good. Because each basically you pay a CP to make them a master of whatever
Discipline?
I don't know what you want to call it. Yeah, discipline, whatever discipline. So obviously we're talking about the chaplain one now, but then you've got like apothecary, tech marines, librarians, etc., etc. So once you've made that person like the master or chief or whatever of that discipline, you then get access to extra warlord traits and stratagems as well. So
yeah, so I think for the Master of Sanctuary, the only one worth mentioning is you can reroll a dice when doing your listening, which again is just a very efficient trait. The only question you have with this is not, is it a good warlord trait? Yes, is it better than all the other Marine traits? And I think this one is in the conversation and probably gets picked, but equally, there are a lot of very good Marine warlord traits.
Yeah, so, there are. But then it's also worth noting that you can just pay a CP to make this guy a warlord as well. So yeah, it's kind of like Space Marines are a very like pay all your CP up front now, and they've got a very big toolbox of stratagems, but generally you don't really have a lot of CP to use all of that unless you're doing something like Raven Guard or something like that, because generally you want to basically have as much CP as possible to do all of the deep striking and everything. But you could spend most of your CP up front and basically just ensure that you don't need to use stratagems because you've got so many buffs. I think that warlord trait's good. There's another one that's add 3 to the range of your abilities, which it's all right, but you're probably not going to pick it over anything else.
Not for something that's mobile. I think if you had something with babysitting a gun line, then the ability to have a gun line at 9 inches rather than 6 has its value. But not for something like this.
The relic it's not bad. I mean, I think
3-up invuln.
With the Rosarius, you already have a 4-up invuln, so it's improving it by 1 for a relic. Might be decent on like a smash. What they called slap chaplains, aren't they, or something?
Slapplin, yeah.
Yeah, slapplin. So
I think that's
might be
something
right
that if you're in a smaller point game, it's certainly an option. I think if you've got other characters, there are better relics.
Yeah. But generally, like for building a specific chaplain without taking everything else into consideration, it's pretty strong. If you're gonna make a chaplain your warlord and use this, then you've got like 2 warlord traits that are very good, specific for the role of a chaplain, which is good.
Cool. And they have a weird morale affecting relic as their second one, which you can almost always ignore.
Yeah. So if they take the relic, when resolving an attack made against a model with this relic, your opponent cannot re-roll the hit roll, or the wound roll, or the damage roll. In addition, when the morale test is taken, roll 2 dice and discard the lowest. Yeah, it's a bit of a there's a weird one.
Yeah, it's not a frontline assault fighter that might be useful, but again, a chaplain, he's got character to protect him. He doesn't need that, and if he's in combat, you kind of its own thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So moving on, we've got Master of the Forge, which is the Tech Marine one. You can't use it on a Tech Marine gunner, which is where I see about 99% of Tech Marines. So I think this one's got a slightly different role the chaplain is kind of a unit that you might take anyway. I haven't seen anyone take a Tech Marine that's not part of a gunner. So the trait has to be more powerful to entice people to do that, and it is.
Yeah, the trait and also the Warlord trait is just, I think it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. So the stratagem itself allows you to regain 3 wounds instead of D3 when using your repair ability, which is nice, especially if you're something like Iron Hands. But the kicker in itself is the Warlord trait Master of the Machine. When resolving an attack made by a friendly chapter vehicle within 6, add 1 to the hit roll, which is huge.
Yeah, it's just I don't really have any words for it, to be honest.
Yeah, let's not even bother with the other trait. You're never going to take it. Improves dreadnoughts a bit, makes them punch harder.
Yeah, add 1 to the strength and attacks characteristics of dreadnoughts within 6, which maybe if you're running a like fluffy list with like a dread list, then that's pretty good for you. But
I think you still take the Master of the Machine.
Yeah, it's crazy. Although, like when I first saw it, because I have obviously out on the internet, when these things come out, people scrutinize them a lot and sort of pick out what they think is the best, and then say, what do you think of this or whatever. I've already seen this one come up, so I haven't seen the book in itself, but I know that this was in it, and actually thinking about it, it's really strong, but generally in a Space Marine list, you're going to have a chapter master, so you're going to be re-rolling everything anyway. So it takes it from like hitting on 3s down to hitting on 2s, but you're still re-rolling everything. So it's not as powerful as you would have thought it would be. If there weren't chapter masters, then it's extremely good. It's still really good.
It is a fair point. If something like Orcs had this, then going from 5 to 4 is a bigger deal than Marines going from 3 to 2.
Yeah.
Especially with rerolls factored in. But it's still a hugely powerful trait.
Yeah.
Especially, I think sorry.
No, go on.
I think it's more powerful as well on a army that wants to have mobile vehicles, which isn't Iron Hands. And I know there isn't really one of those in the meta at the moment, but you can have that to essentially cancel out the movement penalty and keep your BS3 and keep your rerolls.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I didn't think of that. That's actually pretty good. When you're using it like that, like if you, especially for something like Imperial Fists. So like it, because I think a lot of the time they run like dreadnoughts, or even if you're just because repulsors ignore moving and shooting heavy weapons anyway. But if you're running like even Redemptors or like Contemptor Mortis as Imperial Fists, like that's really good, actually.
I think that's kind of the important stuff for Master of the Forge.
Yeah.
They get an upgraded axe. They get a buffing to their defense relic. Again, I don't think either of those are particularly noteworthy.
Yeah.
The axe is quite good, but again, you don't really want your Tech Marine in combat.
Yeah. Again, they're just kind of like it's in like a vacuum. The other stuff is decent. Apart from maybe the Warden of the Ancients one, which is the Dreadnought Warlord trait, because that is very specific. They're really good, but you're not gonna waste. You're not gonna waste your relic on any of these relics. But you potentially want the Master of the Machine for the +1 to hit.
Next up, we've got the Chief Librarian, which upgrades your Librarian. So he knows an additional power, can deny an additional power, which is kind of an interesting one because it doesn't give him any more offense, but it does make him a lot more useful as a deterrent to other Psychers, especially considering that his relic option gives him 12 inch the range of his Psychic Hood, which again helps with his deny.
Yep, that's pretty good. So just an interesting point. This stratagem isn't actually new. This was in Vigilus.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, so you could still make any. Actually, saying that, I believe it was Blood Ravens that got this.
Yes.
This was their stratagem. It's basically just all Space Marines get this now. And obviously you've got all the Warlord traits to come with it as well. So
yeah, so both the Warlord traits are quite good. There's Psychic Mastery, which the first time you do a Psychic test, you add 1. And there's High Scholar of Liberius that allows the Warlord to know powers from different disciplines. Both of them kind of go in the pretty good character, pretty good thing. If you've got a really key Psychic test you want to get off, that +1 to cast is very valuable. But I'd put this as 2 very decent traits on a book that's got very powerful things. And I think the opportunity cost of these is higher than the benefit they give.
I'm sure, just going back to the High Scholar of the Librarius, I'm sure there's going to be an FAQ for that because it doesn't actually make sense at the moment.
How so?
It says this Warlord can generate psychic powers from any discipline that they can know powers from, rather than generating psychic powers from only one. Well, if it's from any psychic discipline they can know powers from, it's just the chapter-specific one and the Librarius. So, at the moment, you can't take powers from multiple
psychic trees, as they were.
Psychic trees. So basically, this doesn't sound like what it is. It's not. You can take like an Iron Hands psychic power if you're Imperial Fists or something like that. It's literally just you can take a psychic power across both trees rather than picking a tree.
Yes, and also there's a Phobos tree as well that they get. You can mix in as well.
Yeah, so if you're a
Phobos Librarian.
You have to have the Phobos keyword for that though. Which is actually thinking about that, that's pretty good on like a Raven Guard Phobos Librarian, because they've got stuff that synergizes really well, the Phobos stuff with Raven Guard, but there's also Raven Guard have a couple that are really good, so you could actually taking 3 powers on a Phobos Librarian that can pick between Phobos and Raven Guard is actually really good, I think.
Yeah, because
whether you're gonna pay a CP or make this guy a Warlord, I don't know, because again, like, I think Raven Guard are a really front-loaded army on CP because you generally pay for the Warlord traits because it's the Warlord traits that allow you to like move before the start of the game and all the stuff like that. So I don't actually know whether this is, is going to show up in really competitive lists, but it's an interesting point for that.
Yeah, and I think the advantage of it as well is that you tend not to see 2 Librarians in Space Marine lists, whereas you might see, say, 2 Farseers or 2 Sorcerers in Chaos lists.
Yeah.
So the ability to have 1 Librarian do 2's job is a valid thing. But yeah, I don't think this pushes Librarians to... It's more of a side grade than an upgrade for them, I think.
Yeah, it just gives them a little bit more. I don't think there's, as far as I'm sort of aware, I don't think there's anything overpowered here. It's just like a nice to have.
Yeah. So next thing we've got is the Chief Apothecary, which is an upgrade to the Apothecary. It's fine. I don't really have a lot to say on this one. It's it helped with people coming back to life. It can give a 6-up feel no pain bubble, which goes to 5-up feel no pain on Iron Hands. All of this stuff kind of it comes in it's fine. I don't really rate Marine Apothecaries that much at the moment, and I don't think this gives them an additional reason to exist. The only exception is, I think, going from 6-up to 5-up feel no pain on Iron Hands infantry is really good, but I don't think, again, it's the army that makes use of it, because Iron Hands are typically sort of triple repulsors or a bunch of flyers and things, so I don't think the buff is relevant here.
I think generally you're looking at like 15 intercessors in an Iron Hands list, or maybe like scouts.
Yeah, it's the minimum troop tax, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think you're going to be spending a CP on that. But if you wanted to make a infantry heavy army, then this is pretty good.
Yeah.
If you wanted to actually, this it's quite funny that this combos quite well with another one coming up. So obviously the special rule for the Chief Librarian that you get for free for spending the CP is that you can re-roll the dice for the destroyed model.
Mm-hmm.
None of the relics are that good.
No, the pistol's kind of hilarious because it can occasionally do D6 damage rather than 1. But it's if you're the sort of person that really enjoys killing like a Chaos Lord with a really hilarious moment, then using the pistol to do D6 damage and killing a Chaos Lord outright seems hilarious. But in sort of every other thing, it's useless, especially as it doesn't get multiple damage against vehicles or monsters. You'd rather it was the other way around in 99% of circumstances.
Yeah. But yeah, so the point that I was sort of getting at is, so you get to re-roll the dice for the Chief Apothecary. And then the next one is the Chapter Ancient, if you want to start talking about that, and then I'll go into what I was sort of...
The Chapter Ancient essentially upgrades your Banner Bearer. So it adds 1 to leadership of the Banner Bearer. Woo! Crazy. And the actual ability itself increases from 6 inches to 9 inches, so the aura gets bigger. Did you want to jump in here, or was there a specific thing you wanted to?
Yeah, so just it's a funny point that this might still see play in Imperial Fists, maybe, but basically what you can do is generally, I think running Imperial Fists as fairly infantry heavy is actually all right, because generally they've got bolters. You want bolters. So if you do this, basically what you can do is with the Chief Apothecary and the banner, if you give the banner so one of the relics is Standard of the Righteous Hatred. So models that shoot with one of their ranged weapons or make a single attack with one of their melee weapons as a result of this model's Astartes banner always resolves their attack as if they had a ballistic skill and weapon skill of 2, which is pretty good. When the Space Marine Codex came out, the banner was actually nerfed. You used to be able to get a relic banner that made it go off on a 3-up. You can't do that anymore. That relic banner basically increases your aura from 6 to 9, which is what the stratagem does now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were going to pay a CP for that, you might as well just pay a CP for the Chapter Ancient now, because you get the same thing. Then you can fill your relic slot, which you would have filled with the relic banner, with the Standard of Righteous Hatred to make them shoot on 2s if the banner goes off, which kind of counteracts the nerf to that. So it's basically taking the role of whether they shoot when they die from a 3-up to a 4-up, but then you're taking the ballistic seal from a 3-up to a 2-up, which is pretty good. So with the Apothecary, now generally apothecaries don't get their points back in a game. If you can re-roll the roll, though, there's a very, very high chance that they're going to get their points back, because it's a 4 re-rolling, right? So these both combo quite well, actually, especially in something like Imperial Fists, where it's all right running mass infantry, because they're going to be getting all the benefits from your super doctrine and the just the chapter rules. So I think it's pretty good, and also it works with Centurions, which as Imperial Fists are really good.
Yes.
So
In fact, just as Marines are really good.
yeah. So if you take Devastator Centurions with Heavy Bolters, then this combo's actually pretty good. Getting a Centurion back on a 4-up is really good, and then having them on a 4-up shoot again at Ballistic Skill 2, it's good.
Yeah,
I
it
think
would be
it's good.
devastating to a lot of board lists that struggle to take them down in the first place. Then they come back, then they shoot.
I actually think, now that I'm thinking about this, specifically in the Imperial Fist sense, I think you can basically 5 CP at the start of the game. So if you're running a brigade or a dual battalion, then you're probably going to be paying something like that anyway to get all your special characters and stuff. So you can pay for if you take a captain, you can pay for him to become a chapter master, so you're re-rolling everything. Imperial Fists, you can give him the relic so that he basically becomes a lieutenant, so that you're not like wasting points on a lieutenant as well. You can then pay 1 CP for a chapter ancient, 1 CP for a chief librarian, and then pay just another CP for that relic. And then you can just fill your list with infantry, with stalker bolt rifles and centurions and all of that other good stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good.
I certainly don't think it's bad, put it that way.
No.
They've got an ability to help them secure objectives.
Yeah.
That goes in the sure, whatever category. Don't think you spend anything. They've got a heroic intervention bubble, which is quite powerful. And unlike on the sort of, I said it on Salamanders, I do think there are chapters out there that would be more interested in this. Again, if you're building that sort of defensive Raven Guard list where you're perhaps trying to keep out various things, it might be potentially useful as a way to stop units being tagged, because someone comes in, tries and tags a scout unit, let's say, and you heroically intervene with a bunch of Primaris dudes, they're going to punch some things to death quite quickly.
Yeah. I think when you take into account how many attacks like intercessors get now, giving them heroic intervention is not something to be sort of taken lightly. But I think the other relic is just a bit meh, to be honest.
Yeah, more attacks when you die. Sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Wrong army for the thing, I think.
Although interesting, I wonder what the wording for shock assault is, because I'm wondering whether shock assault actually applies to you coming back as well.
You only make one attack with the banner, so I don't think you get the bonus one.
I think that overrides that, doesn't it? So I don't think you're going to take that relic. You're not going to take if you're doing like the banner combo kind of thing. I don't think you're going to take this over the other banner.
No, I don't think so.
And even if like you're certainly not going to pay a CP for it. So yeah.
So next on the list we have the chapter champion, who's kind of quite an effective quite an effective melee threat as it is, and I don't think anything here really pushes him out of the role of being quite good but not taken.
Yeah, I don't. He's got a relic power sword, which isn't that bad, but yeah.
I think the thing is, you could take this guy, you could take a smash captain or smash chaplain.
Yeah. Yep.
Both of them have more utility, most of them have more damage. This guy's sort of unique rules are cool. There's charge re-rolling things, there's a nasty sword, there's a defensive buff, there's a mortal wound trigger, and the ability itself gives him an additional attack and additional leadership, and when he's attacked with a melee weapon, subtract 1 from the hit roll as a sort of dueling thing.
Yep.
All of which are pretty solid abilities, especially on the character that's already pretty solid, but I don't think they elevate him out of that sort of quite good but not really taken tier.
Yeah, yeah. For casual again, I know I've said this a few times, but like in a vacuum, you can sort of make a really cool special character with these rules if you wanted to. But in your sort of standard like competitive sense, you're not gonna to like get anything out of this. I think the only way you would get anything out of it is if you gave him the Martial Exemplar Warlord trait to give a reroll charges.
Yep.
But even then, are you gonna make this spend 1 CP and make this guy your Warlord, or are you gonna spend 1 CP and then spend another CP to give him an extra Warlord trait? I'm pretty sure you're not.
No.
So
Again, in smaller point games, his cheaper cost, or possibly in some sort of allied detachment, is reasons again why you might take him, but I don't really see it as a overall package.
yeah, I don't. It looks like a fun character that you can build, but yeah, in general, I don't think you're going to be using this guy.
Cool stuff. That's all the Marine characters.
In fact, I don't think I've ever seen a chapter champion.
No, I don't think I've seen one on the tabletop either. Certainly not in 8th edition, possibly in 7th, but even then I can't recall them.
Yeah.
So, next on the list, probably the chapter most likely to run the company champion
You can't.
is the... They can't run the company champion?
No. Chosen champion. The chapter champion stratagem, page 39, cannot be used to affect Black Templars.
Oh, I guess they get the Emperor's champion. So,
yeah, they do. Yeah.
So,
But
the most iconic chapter captain, then I guess.
Yeah, but the stratagem for the chapter champion specifically says you can't use it on named characters anyway. I'm pretty sure the Emperor's champion is a named character.
Fair enough. But that
So,
aside,
there you go.
We've got the Black Templars, which are again one of the most assault-focused Space Marine armies, serving as loyalists. So when these sort of get compared, we'll probably typically be comparing them to Raven Guard and White Scars as their closest competitors. And I think, without giving anything away, I think our overall kind of look is that there's some very decent stuff there, but I don't think it beats either of those two out.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I think there's a very specific reason why it isn't, and we'll sort of touch on that quickly once we've sort of gone through the supplement, as it were.
So first off, they get their unique doctrine, which is an assault doctrine, and when a attack is resolved by a Black Templars unit that is not a vehicle, in the turn where it charged, or made a charge move, or performed a heroically intervene, a unmodified roll of a 6 scores a hit and successfully wounds the target. So you don't make the wound roll, which is a very decent ability. The Zandor Enlightened, the people on discs, have this for both their ranged and for most of their melee attacks, and it's a very good ability.
Yep.
Again, it has the problem that a lot of the melee focused doctrines do, that is the assault doctrine. So it's typically turn 3, although if there is a relic we'll see later that does get around that. So while the Black Templars are only getting their benefits typically turn 3, certainly on an army wide thing, something like the Fists and the Iron Hands get theirs from turn 1.
Yep.
The downside to playing Black Templars, you can't take Librarians. And fitting with the fluff, kind of very similar to how Khorne can't take any Psykers.
Yep.
You know, if you're a Black Templar wanting to cast some Psychic powers, I'm afraid you're out of luck.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Chosen Champion can't take the chapter champion strategy.
Yep. Interesting though, Black Templars can't take Librarians, but there's nothing stopping you from taking a Librarian in a. I mean, you would lose your doctrines and everything, but there's nothing stopping you from taking a Librarian in another detachment with the Librarius discipline, and you can still cast everything on Black Templars because it's Space Marine specific.
No.
So
Yeah, and Black Templars do also get some pretty handy anti-psycho defense, as we'll see. So there's not the perhaps burning need, and I think as though some of the Space Marine powers are really good, if you look at say a Khorne army, they really want to splash in a psycho because of something like warp time, which is so crucial to a Chaos Space Marine assault army. Whereas I don't think there's quite the same burning desire with the Space Marines. There's some really good psychic powers, but I don't think there's something that affects Black Templars in the same way as warp time does for Chaos.
Yep.
So, going through the unique Black Templars units, the first one is High Marshal Helbrecht.
Yep.
He's got kind of the standard non-Primaris Chapter Master profile. He's got a Combi Melter. He's got essentially a souped-up power sword with +1 AP, +1 strength, AP3, D3 damage. Gets D3 attacks when he charges or makes a heroic intervention. He has a reroll hit aura, and he adds 1 to the strength of friendly Black Templar models, whilst within 6. Also has a 4-pin one. What do you make of him?
I think he's good. I just don't see how he could be applicable just with his movement and his current rules.
Yeah, I think that's his. I think probably for a Black Templars army, he's an auto take just because of his reroll hit rolls ability.
Yeah.
The fact that he doesn't have a jump pack or deep strike option or a decent transport option is going to hold him and hold a lot of the Black Templars back.
Yeah. So the Crusade of Wrath add 1 to the strength characteristic of Black Templars models within 6 is really good, but you're more than likely, if you take this guy, you're going to see that happening in a situation where you're on the defense rather than offense, which isn't really what you want.
No, not with
going Black Templars. So yeah, there's just in friendly games where you can there's probably more chance of like a Rhino surviving, like running up the board or whatever. His rules are pretty good. I just think from a competitive sense, I don't see him being applicable at all.
Yeah, I think that's probably the verdict we'll give time and time again for Black Templars.
Yeah.
Very good. Very powerful, actually, in a lot of armies. A lot of armies would kill for an ability that rerolls all hit rolls, and the +1 strength is almost a bonus on top of that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it makes the cut for Space Marines.
Yeah. If he was a character with a jump pack, it would be insane.
Yeah.
It would be really good.
Yeah, no question there. But they've kind of stopped. There aren't a lot of characters that do have jump packs and things. Jump packs and things these days. They tend to prefer the on-foot version.
Yeah, and there's apart from Shrike, I think. He's the only guy that's been, because obviously most characters that are redoing are being turned into Primaris.
Yeah, Kalgar and the Piston.
Yes. So actually, we didn't know whether there was going to be any sort of assault, and there still actually isn't. There's no like assault based jump pack Primaris. You've got shooty jump pack Primaris with the suppressors and that. Shrike is still the only Primaris assault unit with a jump pack, basically. Yeah, it's just with his rules, it's just a shame that he's not. There's no real good way of getting him up the board. So
on a very similar note, we have the Emperor's Champion. So again, a very powerful melee profile, hits on a 2, 4s for strength, toughness, and wounds, 5 attacks, 2 up save, all kind of sort of standard melee character fare, I'd say. He comes equipped with a black sword, which makes him strength 6, AP3, D3 damage. and he can reroll wounds against characters or monsters. Very powerful trait. He adds 1 to his strength while he's within an inch of enemy characters, so he goes up to strength 7. Not a massive break point, but kind of handy. And interestingly, he doesn't have to be attacking that character, so maybe you get close to an enemy psycho so you can punch the tank harder. He's got skillful parry. When resolving an attack made against him, the enemy has to subtract 1 from the hit roll. You can reroll the hit rolls when you attack an enemy character, and he's got a 4-up int bun. So again, this is kind of a character that you sort of... He's got the problem that he's a melee character, he doesn't have a way to get there.
He's very like pigeonholed into one sort of... All of his buffs revolve around being near or attacking a character. So not sure how many points this guy is, but without any real way of getting in there, like, you probably won't take this guy in a competitive army. I don't see any reason to take this guy. I think it would be a much different story if he had a jump pack. With the amount of attacks he gets and the amount of buffs he gets for slaying characters, I think you probably would take this guy if he had a jump pack, because he would be great at just jumping in and killing people's characters.
Yeah,
and way that you could, like in Eldar, you can shoot an autarch up the board into someone's character and put a fusion gun and laser lance into them, and then in his current form, 6-inch movement, the only way you can transport him is in a transport. So, it's a shame, really.
So next on the list we have Chaplain Grimaldus. He comes with a couple of servitors as well. The servitors aren't particularly interesting. They give a buff against they give a 4-up mortal wound protection, feel no pain, which sounds quite good, but Black Templars already get a 5-up feel no pain, I believe it is, against mortal wound. Again, goes in that kind of side grade ability. Grimaldus as well has a standard chaplain, non-primaris chaplain thing, stat line. He knows 2 listeners, which is his big selling point. He can resist a opponent's psychic power. He has a leadership buff aura. Again, Marines don't really care. And he does have quite a good melee aura, which is when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a friendly Black Templar model within 6. On a unmodified 6 roll, you can make 1 additional attack against the same user with the same weapon, which cannot generate further attacks. When you consider as well that the Black Templars doctrine also buffs on an unmodified 6, then those 6s suddenly become really powerful.
Yeah, actually, wasn't there a is it an extra attack? Oh, it is an extra attack. Because it was it hits that was FAQ'd that if you generate an extra hit, that is considered as a 6.
I think if it was you had something that auto hit, it hit as a 6, but I can't remember what it was exactly, and they thankfully modified it.
Yeah, I think there was a way. I'm pretty sure there was a way for Imperial Fists to get like unlimited hits and attacks or something stupid like that.
So I think it's
still really good though.
Yeah, I think can't be bothered to remember a word loophole, which thankfully got fixed.
Yeah. I mean, it's not there anymore, so it's not really worth mentioning. I do remember that it got taken out, so
thankfully.
Yep. It's still pretty good though.
So
but again, there's not really any way of getting him in.
I think the difference for Grimaldus is that his listeners can affect shooting units if you want them to. Black Templars do have a bigger variety of listeners than other things, and the fact that you can deny psychic power as well is a handy thing. So I think I think if you're taking Black Templars, he's an auto-include. I don't think he's a big enough reason by himself to bring Black Templars there.
Yeah. With how powerful litanies are in Space Marines, I think in Black Templars you're probably going to want to sort of split your army into combat and shooting, because I don't think they've got enough to warrant you going like full assault like someone like Raven Guard would. So actually this guy is pretty good because he already has the Master of Sanctity, so he knows 2 litanies and he can use 2 at the same time. And then obviously the additional rules that you just said, like he can deny psychic power, and then
his bonus attacks on 6s.
Yeah, bonus attacks on 6s for melee, so that gives you some sort of like protection if you stuck this guy and kept him with your like fire base. If you were, if you had a couple of repulsor executioners and then you also had some assault units.
Speaking of assault units, the Black Templars have essentially a mixed scout and tactical marine unit called a Crusader Squad.
Mm-hmm.
And this unit, without making too fine of a point of it, I think really just sucks.
Yeah.
So if you've ever wanted to have a close combat tactical unit with some spare scout bodies, today is your day. Otherwise, they have very little going for them. If they can, their tactical marine equivalents, their scout equivalents, if you have as many tactical marine equivalents as the scout equivalent, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 with the scout unit equivalent. Hooray. That's essentially it for their special rules. They've got Angels of Death, which, makes them at least mildly viable. If you're taking Black Templars, then sure. But this is, a tactical unit or Chaos equivalent hasn't seen any competitive play in forever. I can't see why these guys would mix it up now that you can have slightly cheaper bodies in front of the tank.
Yeah. From a fluff point of view, the fact that these guys are still in here is really good. So if you were running like a
cool unit, but
if you were making sort of like a very narrative, fluffy Black Templars army, then you've still got like options to do that, which is really cool. In an actual game though, and in a sort of semi-competitive sense, or even a competitive sense, like they're not great. Like, you're better off just taking assault marines, to be honest. I mean, these guys are troops, so there is that. But
if I wanted to make a Black Templars assault army, I would still take intercessors and just run them up the board and punch people to death while also having a very powerful gun with them.
Yep, yeah. And again, these guys suffer from exactly the same problem as the characters. There's no way of getting them into combat unless you're running them up the board in a Rhino.
Or a Land Raider Crusader.
Yep.
Which will come to you later. So that's it for the units. They get 6 unique litanies, which is very cool. I like the fact that they've given them something different to make up for their lack of psychic powers.
Yeah.
I'd really have liked it if World Eaters had gotten something similar, but spoiler warning, they don't. But, maybe something in the future for them.
Yeah, for the it seems like the way that it's gone in the last 2 books, and I'm talking about Blood of Baal here as well, because that's already been released at the time of recording. The actual Space Marine bit, so the Black Templars and the Blood Angels bit, very much feels like an actual supplement in its own. And then the other rules, whether it's Chaos Space Marines or in the Blood of Baal book, the Tyranids, feels very much like a sort of just an add-on, as opposed to like a fully fledged supplement, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I still think they benefit a lot from it.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I completely get what you're saying, but you're essentially a sub-faction of Marines gets a whole set of rules versus a sort of a split section of mids and whatever. It's not like High Fleet Kraken are getting their own set of a massive update, as it were.
Yeah, exactly. I hope that changes in the next book. I think the next book is Thousand Suns, Dark Angels, Space Wolves, and Grey Knights, I believe.
That could be
So
very cool. Lots
yeah, so hopefully it doesn't help any CSM players out there, but if you're a Thousand Suns player, hopefully it swings the other way, because then it's 1 Chaos army and 3 Imperium, which are essentially just different flavors of Space Marines, like non-Codex Space Marines, like the Blood Angels. So
It is
thinking
actually
about it, the way that they've gone with the books already, I'm anticipating the Thousand Suns to actually be a really big part of it, and the other ones to just get little like sort of snippets of rules, I think.
yeah, I wouldn't be against that. And actually, a slight side point, but I like what they've done with the supplement model for Space Marines. And if if Chaos ever got a redoing as a faction, probably in 9th edition, I would like them if they said Chaos Space Marines, this is their rules, and then they have supplements for Death Guard and Thousand Suns, even if they're slightly larger supplements.
Yeah.
But just keeping everything in line in one profile. To be honest, I'd like them to do it for Dark Angels, Space Wolves, and things as well, even if they're larger supplements.
Yep.
And just keep, because it must save them time as well, just having to have one. You don't have to keep reprinting Tactical Marines in every book.
Yeah.
And if there are units that you don't want Space Wolves to take, fine, just have a little thing at the start saying, sorry, Space Wolves don't get access to Centurions because they're too busy doing wolf things.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, obviously, there's some Codex Space Marine specific units that the non-Codex Space Marine armies can get, and I think Grey Knights are a little bit of an anomaly because all of their
I view
units
them as
apart
their
from
separate things. But...
all of their units apart from 2 are completely specific to them. So
that's the thing, like 70% of the Space Wolf book, roughly
is Space
speaking,
Marines. Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah,
do
exactly.
you need to reprint them unless you're giving them a different rule, like Blood Angels for their intercessors? Then sure, but as a general thing, I think that would be
but then
easier for everyone, to be honest.
Yeah, but then you just have that in their supplement. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So going back to Black Templars, we've got the 6 Litanies. So first one gives a friendly Black Templar unit within 6 5-up Field of Pain. Just a very good ability.
Yeah, it is a unit as well.
Yeah.
So that's actually pretty good, and it's it's just a unit. You just have to be Black Templars. So
if you really want your Crusader squad to work, you can have them as a 20 model unit and then give them a 5-up Field of Pain.
Yep.
That's a thing.
Or even it works for like the sort of half and half list that I was sort of talking about. So if you've got Grimaldus at the back, I mean, we haven't even seen the other litanies yet, but like you could have him with whatever litany because he can take 2 and use 2. You could have him with this and whatever else you need, and you can just give your vehicles a 5-up Feel No Pain, which is great on vehicles.
Oh yeah, it's not an infantry unit, so putting it on a repulsor or something.
Yeah, and it's not even wholly within; it's just within 6. So you just have to be within that bubble. Yeah, that's really good. I like that.
So next one is essentially makes your chaplain a lieutenant. When resolving an attack with a melee weapon by a friendly Black Templar unit within 6, reroll a wound roll of 1. I don't think you take a chaplain for this ability. It might be nice to have if you're not planning on bringing a lieutenant.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's just without the psychic powers, I think they need a little more punch to them. So the first litany, the litany of divine protection, the only thing that you sort of need to go off is the litany, right? And then within 6 inches, everything gets a 5-up, right? This one, it has to be in combat, and they have to be within 6 inches. The unit, so the unit by a model. So the whole
model,
basically
no,
all
I think
have to be.
No, I don't think they do. I think because it's a model in a Black Templars unit within 6, so the unit's got to be within 6, and then the model can re-roll the ones.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh,
So
sorry.
if some of them are if some of the unit is outside, which in a lot of cases, like in a lot of in a lot of situations, you don't want to charge your characters in, right?
Hmm.
So if there is a situation where you've got I don't know, like a Vanguard vet unit that's in combat and you're stringing a couple of them back to get your character bubble and whatnot,
Yeah, especially as
the only ones that are going to be able to do that are the ones that are stringing back, basically.
Marines aren't like a horde list. You don't want a lot of models trading
Yeah,
back, particularly with them the same way. But
yeah,
with Gene Stealers, you're probably fine leaving a couple at the back. So
yeah. And then again, it's only reroll or wound roll of 1.
yeah,
So
which is a nice buff, but you could take a lieutenant and that's always on. You don't have
yeah,
that chance of failure.
yeah. You don't have the chance of failing. It's on the unit rather than the model that's within 6 inches.
And it's shooting as well.
And it's shooting as well. Yeah.
So next one is just a skip. Subtract 2 from the leadership characteristics of enemy models within 6. I can't think of anything interesting.
Models in enemy units whilst within 6.
Yeah. So I think even if that isn't just a bad ability, the fact that the opponent potentially can play around that, because morale obviously goes off at the end of the phase, so your chaplain might even be out of range at the time if you've lost a lot of unit models.
It's just 100% terrible.
Yeah.
There's no other way of
I think that
reviewing that.
the most interesting way of affecting enemy leadership is typically when there's a psychic power or something that triggers off it nowadays.
Yeah. Or there's quite a few weapons. So like butcher cannons and like harlequin weapons. That if you kill a model, they automatically just -1 leadership or whatever it is. Which is good because you want to kill the models anyway. So
yeah, and I don't think this is in that same
yeah,
league as things which aren't already that good anyway. So
yeah.
So next up, Fathers of Devotion. Select a Black Templars unit within 6 of the model. If the unit makes a charge, move, or heroically intervene, add 1 to the attack's characteristics.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, again, if you are taking that 20-man Crusader squad, extra 20 attacks, nothing to sniff at.
Yeah, or even just that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Again, because it's at the start of the turn.
You've got the deep striking problem.
Yeah, you've got the deep striking problem. So this would be really good on because of shock assault now as well. Vanguard vets with chainswords get 4 attacks on the charge, which is really good. So if you could get this to go up to 5, a unit of 10 Vanguard vets with chainswords is 50 attacks.
That's got to clear some chaff.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy. But then yeah, as you said, it suffers from the start of the turn and deep strike thing again. Really, you want to be deep striking them in and then charging them in. And
yeah, I mean, if you are taking Grimaldus, that's not a drawback, as it were. But I think
I'm not sure. It's good. It's good. It has some. It definitely has limitations. I'm not sure you would take this over the other ones.
Yeah.
If you were going to pick a litany from the Black Templar stuff, because even the normal Space Marine litanies, like there's a couple in there that are just almost auto includes, like Catechism of Fire, the +1 to wound.
Yes.
Even if you were going to take just one from the Black Templars one, I don't see any reason why you would take this over Divine Protection.
Yeah, I think this is a good second power, but there are better second powers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So next up, we have Fervent Acclamation. Adds 3 to the range of friendly Black Templars or abilities whilst within 6. No.
That's interesting.
I don't think it's army for benefit from it. I don't think the Black Templars or abilities are strong enough to care about. If you're desperate for a 9-inch +1 strength with your Chapter Master, then put an extra model back and you get that ability for free.
Yeah. So there are a few The only application I can see this being, and again, this suffers the same thing as the other sort of ones that are good but are lackluster compared to the other ones. So out of Deep Strike, if you had a jump pack chap, oh no, because then you suffer the thing at the start of the turn again. Yeah. So.
Finally, we have Oath of Glory, which you select a Black Templars unit within 6. It gets always fight first with the normal restrictions on this. So if an enemy charged them, you still alternate. This, I think, is quite a weak ability generally. I think Black Templars have benefit from it more than most armies do, especially if you're wrapping a unit and then want to go first next turn. But I still don't think it's good enough to see play, especially over either the 5-up Dawn of Pain or the +1 attack.
Yeah, this is this kind of ability is good on a character that's already going to be like in combat, or on a psychic power that has a decent range. But as a litany that goes off at the start of the turn, and also because it goes off at the start of the turn,
you can potentially play around it as well.
Yeah, you can potentially play around it depending on who has the like first or second turn. So, because it goes off at the start of the battle round. So, yeah, not great.
So next up, we've got the Warlord traits. First up is Oathkeeper. Your Warlords can heroically intervene 6 instead of 3, and can move up to 6 whilst intervening. Pretty good trait, especially if you do have the ubiquitous Smash Captain with a jump pack. So you can catch people unaware, you can use it to sort of get planes a lot of the time. Things like that. Pretty solid trait.
Yeah, it's alright. Most, I think the vast majority of armies have something like this when they're combat focused, but you don't really see much play of it when it's like a Warlord trait or a relic, just because there's so many better ones to take.
Yeah, and I think this is more powerful on a defensive gunline army with a powerful character than an aggressive army.
Yep.
It's the fact that it is 6 inches does mean that you might fail a 5-inch charge or something. The enemy doesn't move away and you catch them off guard. But
that's true. Yep.
I don't think that comes up often enough to be worthwhile.
Yep.
So next one, I think is a really nice one. You can resist 1 psychic power. You can by taking a Deny the Witch test, and you add 1 to the roll, which I think is crucial to make that go from a trait to a quite good trait.
Yep.
Obviously, denying a Doom, a Jinx, a Warp Time, all really powerful abilities, and stopping those even once a game can be game changing.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty good especially for an army that can't take librarians. And you don't really want to like not soup in a librarian, but like cross chapter to lose the chapter traits and whatnot. I think it's pretty good. I think it could have been fleshed out a bit more, because there are like relics, and even in Space Marines, I'm pretty sure there's a Phobos relic or something like that, where you can deny it with the same, and then it also basically gives you a like 12-inch bubble of if they fail a psychic test, they automatically take Perils of the Warp.
Okay.
So which would have been, I think they could have thrown that on there as well, because it's 1 deny.
Yeah, that's.
Then it would have been like, oh, that's really cool, and also quite thematic as well, because it's Black Templars.
Yeah, so there's a Tyrannid Kronos trait only that's quite similar to that, which is quite powerful against the right list.
Yeah, and like I said, there's a. I'm pretty sure it's either. I think it's a relic that a librarian
I've got it here.
can take. Yeah.
So it's a Primaris model only. When a psychic test is taken from an enemy model within 18 rather than the normal 24, subtract 1 from the total. In addition, when a psychic test is failed from an enemy model within 18 of your army of this relic, roll a d6 and a 4 up. The enemy takes d3 mortal wounds. So
Yeah.
Actually, both of their pros and cons.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't think there's anything stopping you taking both if you really wanted to, because it's just a Primaris generic Space Marine relic.
Okay.
So
I think it has to be on a librarian though.
I can't see anything saying it is. I think just
Really?
there as well. So
Okay.
anyway, next one, Paragon of Fury. After you finish a charge move, for each enemy unit within one of this warlord, roll a d6 on a 2+. That unit takes a mortal wound. Yeah, again.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a world where you can charge and be within an inch of 3 or 4 units to do 4 mortal wounds, which is roughly the damage of a Thunder Hammer swing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's just too. It's too. There needs to be too many things for it to be worth it. Basically.
It's quite
It's
reliable,
very-
which is nice, but I'd rather most of the time take even just the generic rulebook trait of +1 attack.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's some units that have a rule like that just innately, and it's really good because it does allow you to sort of, that thing's got 1 wound left, I'll just charge into it.
Not as a warlord trait.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Not as a wasting your warlord trait on that when your warlord is always going to be just one model. And in Black Templars, I don't think you can. There's not a lot that you can take that has a massive base, because obviously the size of the base matters in something like this, because it allows you to tag more stuff.
Yeah, with the legend stuff
Generally,
moving,
yeah,
anything.
generally you're going to be charging in with a model that has like a 32 mil base, and in which case you're going to be tagging either 1 or 2, and then 1 mortal wound or on 1 or 2 units is nothing that big, especially if you're wasting a warlord trait on it. So
Yeah, I think even if this was on a knight, I don't think that warlord trait's good.
no.
So next up we have Master of Arms. The warlord always fights first, and again this goes in the not worth it category for me.
Yep.
You want your warlord to always be charging, I think, with this army anyway. And if it doesn't, then you're probably happy enough playing 2 CP after it lives, or not if it dies, obviously. So yeah, much the same as we spoke about on the listening.
Yeah, it's I mean, there's nothing from what I've seen so far. There's nothing that groundbreaking or overpowered in this. There's nothing that makes me go, "Oh no!" Like I'm gonna be facing this.
No, I think
Like
that's the thing.
So I think they could have, like, with the deny the witch warlord trait, they could have just added that if you deny it, they automatically take D3 mortal wounds. Like that would be a nice fluffy warlord trait that you would think, oh, I might actually take that rather than just one of the bog standard Space Marine ones.
I think that's a really good point about Black Templars in general, that they've got some good stuff, but nothing. They don't really have enough of a unique angle to make them stand out in the Space Marine metagame. Whereas, as much as we kind of like to look down on, say, Iron Hands or Imperial Fists for the sheer power they bring, they do have a very different style of play to what we've been seeing previously and promote different units, and Salamanders do the same. I don't think Black Templars do enough. And maybe that's just a good sign that Marines didn't have another super faction, but they could have made them the non-psychic power anti-psycho faction, which I think they're trying to go for, and perhaps been a bit more aggressive in that to make them interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with what I was saying.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point.
They're not overpowered enough. Like, they're not overpowered at all, and they're under strength enough for them to have gone a little bit extra with the warlord traits and stuff. So like Master of Arms with the always fight first, like
they could have had that as an aura ability, and I still think that wouldn't have been chosen.
Yeah, or they could have just flipped it the other way round, which, like, a lot of, well, not a lot, but a few models have, and there's a few relics and stuff like the Vexator Mask and Tyrannid's Paroxysm Psychic Power, where you can actually just make an enemy fight last, which is far better.
Yes.
Than fight first. They could have just done that. Like, there wouldn't have been any reason not to do that, they still wouldn't have been overpowered, and it would have sort of made you even more inclined to actually take like assault units, because you could wrap someone and then make them always fight last, and then
yeah, it's a much better way.
Yeah, it gives you a big buff to your kind of assault army, as opposed to one model having they always fight first. The situations that's going to be applicable are very small.
Yeah.
If you get wrapped, generally you're probably going to get wrapped by like a big unit, in which case fighting first with someone with 5 attacks is not really going to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Or you get tagged by 2 units and you fight one, and then kill a couple of models in one, and then the other unit attacks you. Like, it's not really. You're probably not wasting a warlord trait on this.
No, second last warlord trait is quite an interesting one. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a friendly Black Templars unit within 6 on an unmodified wound roll of a 6, improve the AP of that attack by 1. So AP dash becomes AP1, etc. This is interesting because it's quite a good ability. It doesn't go off a lot of the time, but it is an aura thing. And Black Templars do have ways to get a pretty reasonable number of attacks.
Yeah.
It's got kind of anti-synergy with its own
chapter. Yeah.
Yes, because they auto hit and you don't have the wound roll.
Yeah, so that's a
bit
funny. Yeah.
But it's a reasonable ability that I don't think is power enough, especially looking at the next trait.
Yeah.
So the next trait is Frontline Commander, and this is, I think, the best one by quite a reasonable thing. Epitome of Piety, the Deny the Witch one, is very powerful in some matchups. But Frontline Commander allows friendly Black Templar units within 6 to add 1 to advance and charge rolls, which is really big, especially if you've got anything coming out of Deep Strike.
Yeah. So suddenly, this has gone from the characters that they've listed are a bit meh. You can't get them into combat or whatever. Suddenly, with that, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to take a jump pack. I'm going to take a Smash Captain with this Warlord trait, and I'm going to take loads of Vanguard vets, and they're going to have an 8-inch charge off Deep Strike rerolling.
Yes.
Basically. So now, just with that one trait, it's like, okay, there's actually some teeth.
Yes.
To this now.
So yeah, what's kind of good is the named characters' fixed traits are good ones as well. So Helbracht has the Frontline Commander one.
Yep.
Rimaldus, the Chaplain, has the extra Deny the Witch one.
So he has 2 denies then.
Yeah, and he adds 1 to both of them, so very handy anti-psycho option.
That's pretty good, actually.
And the Emperor's Champion has the Heroic Intervene 6 one. Probably not worthwhile on him, but the other 2 certainly options that you'd consider, especially if you're taking them in the list.
Yeah. I mean, the Chaplain Grimaldus one's really good if you're taking him as your. If you really, really want him to be your warlord, then he comes with a really good warlord trait.
Yeah.
So yeah, good.
If there's a psychic heavy metagame, then brilliant. Take him, give him a warlord trait.
Yep.
Stop a load of psychic powers. And speaking of stopping psychic powers, we'll go for the stratagems. They do have one of the best stratagems in the game in Abhor the Witch, which allows you, after any Deny the Witch attempts have been made, to roll a d6, and when a 4 after the power is resisted for 1 CP. The Iron Hands version is 2 CP now, which is nice.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, which is nice that the Black Templars and later World Eaters keep their 1 CP version.
Yep.
And this is a hugely powerful trait because it not only gives you the CP attempt, the stratagem attempt, sorry, you've got the reroll, and it's after the Deny Witch attempts have been made. So you can have a second chance to stop something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really good.
Crusader Relics allows a sergeant or battle brother to gain access to a limited number of chapter relics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are your non-character relics. I can't remember what they're called in Space Marine. Additional war gear, isn't it, or something like that?
Special issue war gear.
Yeah, special issue. This is your Black Templar special issue war gear. So
Then you've got Devout Push, which is a very good strategy. It allows Black Templars, infantry, or bikers to pile in and consolidate 6 instead of 3, which is really huge, especially as Black Templars do get the option of those 20-man troop squads, which means you can run and tag a lot of things.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. It means if you're running a deep striking sort of Black Templars list, that you can kind of more than likely secure a wrap on someone as well out of deep strike, rather than deep striking and then just being out in the open, which is good.
Next one is also another brilliant stratagem. Use this stratagem in the movement phase when an enemy infantry unit which does not have the flyer battle roll and was within 1 inch of a Black Templars unit from the army chooses to fall back. Roll a dice. On a 2+, the unit cannot fall back this turn.
Yep. That's
wow.
Also, so firstly, it's really good. It's a really good stratagem. Secondly, is there any infantry model in the game that has the flyer battlefield kill roll?
Not the one that I'm aware of.
No.
Maybe just future proofing, but
yeah. It's
but
really good though. Yeah, really good.
You combine that with Devout Push, so you can run up, you can smash the unit you want to kill. You can pile in 6 inches into anything in the game, even if it has fly. Any infantry in the game, even if it has fly. Then on a d6, which you can choose to reroll if you want to, then you keep your big, nasty assault squad safe from shooting. And that is a hugely powerful strategy.
Yeah. All you have to do is just tag it with one model. And then, if you've got the 2 CP and they want to fall back, there's a very, very high chance they're not going to be able to fall back.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing that people will say Vect for, so watch out for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Next one, we've had some big hits in a row. Time for a miss. Use this stratagem in your movement phase when a Black Templar infantry unit from your army advances. Until the end of this turn, models in this unit can shoot with their pistols. Oh, sorry, I actually missed the second part of this. Until the end of the turn, models in this can shoot with their pistols, and the unit can still charge. So I only read the first part of it. I missed the charge bit. So yeah, actually that is quite good. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's it's not bad. Not bad. Black Templars infantry. So this still would work on like assault marines or vanguard vets, but obviously it works on normal units as well. But it means that you can sort of
D6 extra movement's always powerful.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah. Advance and charge is always a good one to have in your repertoire, as it were.
So next up, we have a miss. Hooray! First one. Hooray! Ignore the first bit. I said. Hooray! So use this in the fight phase when a Black Templar scout unit from your army made a charge move or was charged this turn. Until the end of the phase, when resolving attack with a melee weapon by modeling that unit, you can re-roll the wound roll.
I read on, so I was like, use this strategy in the fight phase, select the one Black Templars. Then I was like, yeah. Until the end of the phase, you couldn't re-roll the wound roll. I was like, wow, that's really good. And then when you said it was a miss, I went back and I was like, oh, scouts.
Yeah. So
how many scouts can you take in a unit?
I think you can have 10-man squad.
Okay.
So you could give them extra. You could give them chainswords and charge, and they have 30 attacks. You could give them the litany to give them an extra attack, so you could get them with 40 attacks. That seems like a lot of work to get reroll wounds, which is a powerful effect for 1 CP. Scouts could get a first turn charge theoretically, but it's all damage 1. It's going to hit a screen or a tank or something. I don't see that being a good ability at all.
Yeah. Although I'm just thinking, like, if you had this, if you had like a couple of 10-man scout units or just one 10-man scout unit or whatever, you could get a first turn charge if you went first. Like, obviously do their scout deploy, and then move them in your turn, and
Oh yeah.
advance, and then advance and charge.
Is that worth building a list around for a reasonably mild assault unit to get a good buff in 50% of the games?
I just like the idea of having a unkillable scout unit, because you could charge them in, put 40 attacks into them, consolidate up to 6 inches, and then lock the unit in combat.
Someone's going to do that against me now, and I'm going to feel so bad. I've reverted Black Templars off from this strategy in particular of all time, and it's going to smash into a load of vibro cannons, and I'm going to be stuck the whole game in combat with scouts. Beat me to death.
It's interesting. The amount of attacks you could give scouts with this in Black Templars. It's kind of like a Raven Guard generally with their I can't remember what it's called, Master of Ambush, I think it is, with their redeploy anywhere outside of 9 inches of the deployment zone in the first turn. You could get the same thing with this, except rather than 40 Hurricane Bolter shots, you're just getting 40 attacks.
Yeah.
So it's a few more CP to do it, I think, and re-rolling wounds. Yeah, that's great. And then maybe
I guess
plus
for
1
one
attack.
CP, it is a powerful effect, we should say.
Yeah.
If it didn't have the scout word, it would be, I would say, unbelievably broken.
It would be really good. Yeah, it'd be really good. I still think there's some merit to it. Whether it's actually good, like on paper, I'm looking at it and I'm like, you could make that work, because that is essentially the combat version of what Raven Guard do with their Assault Centurions.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it is very CP heavy, and I don't know. I'm sure you could not build a list around that, but have that as like a thing. So that happens on your turn 1, and then your turn 2, you bring your Vanguard vets or whatever down and get an 8-inch charge into whatever you need to, because you've cleared their screens with 40 attacks from scouts.
Fair enough. I'm not sold personally.
No. It's a very situational thing.
It is cheap, so
yeah.
Maybe you get the chance to attack a company commander or something, and you just use that to ensure his death.
Yep.
But moving on, we have Vicious Riposte. Another fight phase stratagem. This one more of a defensive offensive thing. Until the end of pick a Black Templars infantry unit, which is chosen as the target of an attack. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made against the unit on an unmodified save roll of 6, the attacking model's unit suffers one mortal wound after the unit has finished fighting. I'm not sure where the right occasion of you taking a bunch of saves and doing a mortal wound comes into effect. So against something like orcs, you'll be making a lot of saves, but then I don't think the mortal wounds have enough impact on the orc unit to make a difference.
Yeah, I mean generally, don't Tyranids have exactly the same stratagem on Termagants and Hormagaunts?
No, there's when a Termagant unit, or
is it when
I think it's Termagant
or
a Gaunt unit. Actually, I think it's any Tyranid infantry unit dies, they do a mortal wound back on a 6-up.
Yeah.
Whereas this is on save rolls. I think I prefer the Tyranid version, especially as you're probably quite happy to see more happy to see a 20-30 man Gaunt unit die and have a chance to do some mortal wounds back.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If it was, I was going to say, even if it was a modified save roll of a 6, I can't think of anything that would push it in any way. I can't think of anything that really modifies save rolls in melee in a positive way. I guess it stops weird shenanigans with minus AP for weapons or whatever. But yeah, that's a skip, even more so than the scout one.
Yeah, I'm sure there would be a scenario that actually did something, but I think that scenario is very few and far between.
And finally, we have Shock and Awe. This is interesting because it's a powerful stratagem linked to a pool unit. So use the stratagem in your charge phase, select one Black Templars infantry unit, from your army that disembark from a land raider crusader this turn. Until the end of the turn, enemy units cannot fire Overwatch of the selected unit, and when resolving an attack made against that unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. 1 CP. So if it wasn't for the Land Raider Crusader part of this, this would be up there for one of the best strategies in the game.
Yep.
As it is, you want to take a Land Crusader.
If this was... So, I think that they could have had this stratagem, and instead of it being Black Templars infantry, you could have had Black Templars Terminators, and instead of disembarking from a Land Raider Crusader, you could have had coming in from the Teleportarium. And I don't think it would have been broken.
Yeah, Terminators could be on an 8-inch charge with the Warlord trait around.
Yeah.
And then use a CP, you've got a pretty reasonable chance of getting them in.
Yep. But yeah, this is so specific.
The one thing I'd say is that if you do get this off with Devout Push and Tenacious Assault, that's 4 CP. I think that is probably a game-winning move. How you get your Crusader full of 16 infantry people, I think it can carry.
Yeah.
There is another question.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably looking at a minimum turn 3 doing this, because obviously you have to get your guys out.
Yeah.
At the start of your movement phase.
Well, but
so you have to have already been there.
Maybe someone charges towards you, but someone tries to put some grots into your Land Raider so it can't move, and you're like, aha, I have disembarked, and now your grots can't overwatch me. Yeah, I lost the idea halfway through it, but...
Yeah, very, very fluffy, but yeah, I don't think...
Really cool strategy, I have to say.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. It's really fluffy for Black Templars. From a game point of view, unless you're playing like a super narrative game where like you're a Black Templars army with Crusaders going up against I don't know,
the Chaos Horde.
Yeah, I don't know, some other army that has a very bad like fluff representation on the tabletop.
Grey Knights. I know you do run quite well with them. I haven't seen anyone that's not you run them for a long time.
I'm trying to I'm going over in my head any scenario where this would actually be all right, but
it's just the Crusader.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, if you really wanted this to work, you could take 3 Crusaders and put 3 infantry squads in them. Crusaders did get a point drop in chapter approved, I believe, and one of them will probably make it to the opponent's line. The cost of the other 2 Land Raiders in the unit inside them, which have all probably died horrible, miserable, painful deaths, I don't think is worth the upside.
Yeah.
But again, if something like this, if I got proved wrong with something like this, fair play.
Yeah, you could. The build that I'm thinking of is Chaplain with a jump pack, with the Black Templars 5-up Feel No Pain running alongside the Land Raiders going up the board.
That is an off-meta list that maybe is brilliant. Maybe we're just missing the sheer power of the
Land Raider Crusade.
Yeah, I think what we've accidentally designed is a really powerful, like 6th edition list there. But
yeah, I mean, there's a couple of stratagems that they've got that is decent. I think. Wrapping up the stratagems.
Yeah, I think when we look at, especially when we look at the Chaos ones later, there's a really nice mix between powerful and fluffy.
Yeah.
When I think in the past there's been a sort of temptation, they've been powerful or fluffy. Especially when you look at some of the Chaos ones, they're just absolutely on point. And I think, again, the way they've done it and the lessons they've clearly learned along the way with things like restricting the reroll wounds to a scout unit rather than making it, say, an infantry unit, which they might have done at the start of the edition. I think it's just a really good example of what Games Workshop have done in this thing. Because we could, I think we said at the start, we were a bit disappointed that Space Marines got a few buffs for their new characters.
Hold on a sec.
Oh, sorry.
Black Templars. Neophytes, Apprentices. Hold on. So I'm just reading the wording. Although it's Black Templar Scout unit. Hold on.
That doesn't apply on Crusaders, if that's what you're thinking.
Does it not?
No, they're
No, it doesn't.
neophytes and initiates, or whatever it is, so they don't have the scout keyword.
Stupid.
That
the
would
fluff,
be an interesting
yeah, the
reason.
fluff of the. I was just actually reading the little fluffy excerpt on the stratagem, and it says, as a neophyte's apprentice ends, they fight all the harder to prove their initiate's faith is not misplaced.
Yeah,
That makes it sound like it should be the Crusader unit.
I guess actually. Oh, no, it's scout unit. I was going to say.
Yeah.
Does that apply on scout bikers?
I just went.
Yeah, scout bikers have the scout keyword. So.
Do they?
Yeah, they've only got one attack though. So.
Does the how does that keywording work though? Because the keyword is specifically Black Templars Scout.
I would have to double check, but I think even if you could use it on scout bikes, I don't think that changes my evaluation. Scout bikes are not a good assault unit.
Scout bikes can't take chainswords, can they?
No, they get combat knives though, which are essentially the same thing.
Okay, so that's not.
You've got the same damage output as a scout, but on a more mobile platform.
Yeah, I think with what I was thinking of, it would still kind of work, but yeah, it's just too. It's way too situational. Not situational, but way too specific.
Yeah, it's something that perhaps could catch people out, but I don't think it's a. So finally, for Black Templars, we've got the relics, and we're going to start off with we've got the Crusader's Helm, which is a very good relic, considering one of the main problems with Black Templars. So the relic adds 3 inches to aura abilities, to a maximum of 12. In addition, at the start of your movement phase, select one friendly Black Templars unit with the Combat Doctrines ability, and which has to be within 6. Until the start of your next movement phase, the Assault Doctrine becomes active for that unit, replacing the current active Combat Doctrine, which is just huge.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, because as we said right at the start of the Black Templars, one of their big weaknesses is their Combat Doctrine doesn't come in until 3rd and 3, or weaknesses certainly compared to other Marine chapters. And to use that on probably unlikely turn 1, but certainly on turn 2 with a unit that's disembarked from the thing or coming from Deep Strike is very nice. Seeker Bolts allows you to select a bolt weapon. When the bearer shoots it, you can choose for it to fire a Witchfire round. You can only make one attack, but you can target a Psyker character, even if it's not the closest enemy unit. If you hit, you do D3 mortal wounds in addition to other damage. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I think, as someone who plays Eldar, the threat of this against an infantry warlock is very scary. The threat of it against a Psyker that's already perilled, and I haven't used the reroll on, is quite good. I don't think it's worth a relic slot overall, but there might be matchups where you're tempted to tech this in.
Yeah. If you're basically tailoring your list, which I don't condone. I don't like list tailoring. If you're tailoring your list to go up against someone, then yeah, maybe.
Well, the nice thing about it being a relic and just replacing a bolt weapon, is that you can do it on the fly. You don't have to do it as a pre-game tech choice, because you'll probably have a bolt weapon on a couple of characters anyway, and it's not restricted to say a chaplain or something.
Also, this is Witch Seeker Bolts is one of their I've forgotten the name of it again. The non-character relics.
Oh yes. Yes.
So it's a special issue war gear, so you could take this on like a scout sergeant or something like that as well.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of options to take this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I reckon that's something you probably never start off with as your free relic, especially when you compare it to the next 2. But as a tech choice at the start of the game, I think that's quite a decent option.
Wow, that is really good.
Or the Aurelian Shroud.
Yeah.
So once per battle, at the start of the battle round, so you can use it if the opponent goes first, a model with this relic can unveil the Aurelian Shroud. Until the end of that battle round, models in friendly Black Templars units have a 4-up invulnerable save, whilst their unit is within 3 of the model with this relic. Now, we were saying that Black Templars don't have a lot of reasons to pick them over other chapters. This is actually potentially a big draw.
Yeah.
And I can't see a Black Templars list not having this as a relic.
Yeah.
Especially as it's not locked to, again, a particular character. So you could take this on any available character. It's not like you have to have a librarian to bring this.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, again, going back to my like sort of half and half thing, where you've got like maybe a couple of like deep striking assault units and then a fire base. This is really good.
Yeah, just a 4-up invulnerable against any type of shooting.
Yeah, so you could give like, if you were taking a fire base of like a couple of executioners or something like that, and also had the litany for the 5-up Feel No Pain as well, that makes, because that's at the start of the battle round as well.
Yeah.
So it makes, I mean, if you take this, it makes them unbelievably tanky against
Sort of high AP weapons,
Yeah,
which is what you want
yeah.
against Marines.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that.
So the
And
next,
it's not sorry, I just wanted to, it's not overpowered as well because it's just once per battle. It's
Yeah,
basically like a super prepared positions
yeah,
or a super like defensive thing. You know, I like generally the way that 40k games go is that obviously as the game progresses you lose more and more and more firepower. If you're both like really going up against each other, obviously some games can be really one-sided, but you're probably going to use this at the start of battle round 1 regardless, because that's when usually most armies, if they're shooty armies, have the most firepower. If you're going up against an assault army, you're probably going to use this turn 2 or turn 3.
So here's the dream. You've brought your Crusader full of a Crusader squad. Do you think a 4-up invuln first turn and a 5-up Feel No Pain is enough? Or, in your world, you can have it full of scouts to use the stratagem with.
Oh, I still don't think it's.
No, I don't either. But it's a nice dream, and if you're a Black Templars player, I'm sure it's worth a try.
Yeah. If I had the models and I had a Black Templars army, I'd give it a go.
Yeah.
But
and if you're a Black Templar player, chances are you have the models already.
Yeah. If I was looking to start an army and I took a fancy to Black Templars and I was sort of in the mindset of I love Black Templars so much that I want to run them competitively, I would still be pretty happy with what I've seen here, I think.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I mean, there's like, it feels very like a lot of the other chapters are very eggs in one basket. This feels very like spread quite wide in that there's a lot of stuff that you can use to buff like a fire base, but then you've also got some options for like deep striking and assault and everything like that as well.
They got a nice protection thing.
Yeah, and that the Aurelian Shroud relic is another one of those where it's just like, yeah, that's just great. It's a great relic for basically everything. But it's not a like it's not a relic where you think this is going to be broken in this specific build. It's just good. So yeah, I like it.
So next up is another powerful relic, but I don't think you'll ever choose this one actually. So this one is for chaplain model only. When the roll is made to determine if a litany is recited, if it is successful, you can roll 2d6 and discard one of the results. That sounds good, but remember you can't take this on a named character, and I think that Grimaldus is going to be more powerful than the generic chaplain, and therefore this won't see any play.
Yeah. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one because you've got some very powerful, especially in Black Templars, you've got some very powerful litanies, especially the 5-up Feel No Pain, which I'm going to say that you almost want to go off every single time. So that does help, but are you going to take a chaplain? Well, you might not pay 1 CP to make him a chief or whatever it's called, master of sanctities.
I don't believe. Yeah, it's if you just want the chaplain for the 5-up Feel No Pain, then giving him this relic is an option. But I think Grimaldus.
With everything else he gets, I think you're probably taking Grimaldus. In which case, you probably can't. You wouldn't be able to take this on him. I wouldn't have thought.
No. So next up, you get your mortal wound on a psychic relic, as we almost discussed in the strategy. So once per battle, after an psychic power has been manifested by an enemy psychic model within 12 of the relic, roll a dice on a d6. The model suffers d3 mortal wounds after the psychic power has been resolved. I don't like this, if I'm honest.
Battle, yeah.
Because I think the Witchfire Witchseeker bolts do a better job of it.
Yep.
It's once per battle, it's a shorter range, and the fact that it's after the psychic power has been resolved is also a big thing. So that means the power's already gone off, and you've already got your Quicken, your Doom, whatever it is off.
Yeah.
So,
and also,
if you really hate cycles, you can double tip, but yeah.
Yeah, you can also just take the normal Space Marine relic. Anyway, that makes Psychers take D3 mortal wounds if they fail it on the 4-up.
You could take all 3.
you could do if you really, really hated Psychic.
If you're playing Thousand Suns, maybe give it a consider. But I'm not sure on this one. I think it's the weakest of the 3.
Yeah. The next one's not too bad.
Yeah, it's actually the last Black Templars thing. So we're not going to go over their tactical objectives. Model with a power sword or a master-crafted power sword only. It replaces that, and it gives you +1 strength, AP3, flat 3 damage. Discount Thunderhammer.
Yep. Yeah, discount Thunderhammer without the strength 8.
But without the -1.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Makes your character's strength 5 if you're close to Herbract, the chapter master. You get up to strength 6.
Yep.
Nice if you're taking your Thunderhammer just for the flat 3 damage and not for the strength. Then if you're thinking you're going to be facing a Tyrannid Warrior meta run by Nathan, then this is a very good weapon. But I think you're probably tempted just to take the Thunderhammer off.
Do you know what I'd love to do?
What?
I'd love to take a captain with a jump pack and give him a storm shield and then the Sword of Judgment. It just sounds so cool.
It does. It does also seem like it is such a 40k weapon.
Yeah.
That sort of judgment.
I just wanted to go down and mention the points values because they have gone down.
Yes. Okay.
So Grimaldus is only 90 points.
I think he's a steal.
Yeah, that's really good. High Marshal Helbrecht, I believe he's gone down quite a lot. I think he was really expensive.
Yeah, because he's power level 9.
Yeah.
So you look at that and think he's about 180. So 150 for all that he brings is pretty solid.
Yep. And Emperor's Champion 75, which is all right, I guess. If you want.
Yeah, his damage output is really good for the points.
Yeah.
Still not sure
if you wanted someone and you thought you had a good way of getting him into combat with characters to assassinate them, then that's fine. Yeah, he's really good for his points.
The Crusader squad, actually, they're more expensive than a tactical marine. Because they're 13 and 11 for the scout equivalent.
Yeah, I wonder if they've gone down.
In chapter proof. I'd be surprised if they had, but I have.
Yeah, I don't think they have. Although I don't think many people follow the points of Crusader squads that closely.
I mean, the servitors actually, we wrote them off, but they are actually only 3 points. I still don't think you take.
Chapter approved. Nope, their points are still exactly the same. So
okay.
13 and a neophyte is 11. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Put it this way: the Chaos Marines went down to 11, and I still don't think we'll see them there, other than in one very specific detachment.
yeah.
Crusader
So-
Squadron jumping out of the Land Raider Crusader, I think, is going to remain a cool pipe dream.
and the servitors are 2 points each.
Are they 2?
Yeah.
Oh
2
yeah,
points.
sorry, it's models per unit. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes them mildly interesting, actually.
Yeah,
I guess if you take,
as-
Grimaldus, you might as well take them.
yeah. For
Yeah,
what they do, like, why
Yeah.
not? Um if you've got 6 points spare, which I think most armies have, like some points spare for what they do for 2 points each, they're pretty good.
or a 6-point objective holder.
Yeah.
They're not protected by character ruling, but they've got a 4-up save.
Yeah.
So stick them in cover. That's an annoying unit to dig out.
4-up save if they're near Grimaldus, then potentially a 5-up feel no pain as well.
I'd be surprised if you
And a
used
4-up invuln if you use the thing.
Oh, you're back to early 8th edition Brimstone Horrors level of frustrating at that point. But I don't think that's going to.
Yeah. So
Oh.
we can probably wrap up the Black Templars there.
Yeah, so I think as we said at the start, Black Templars, a lot of cool stuff. If you are a Black Templars player, I think you're very happy with what you got. There's some really cool stuff. There's really flavorful stuff. I don't think, as we said at the start, they have the raw power of an Iron Fist, Imperial Fists or Iron Hands. But I think there's some really cool stuff there.
Yeah. I think the point I made about them being very sort of Imperial Fists, Raven Guard, Iron Hands for the most part, they're all sort of like they're very focused on what they do. So like if you want to get the most out of Imperial Fists, the general idea is you take bolters. You take bolters wherever you can, which kind of like it pigeonholes you into taking a very specific kind of list. And it's the same with like Raven Guard. There's a couple of flavors of Raven Guard. Like competitively speaking, you're looking at like Assault Centurions or Vanguard Vets. And then with Iron Hands, a little bit different there. I know the triple execution has kind of fallen out of favor just because of the nerfs that they had, but the triple flyer, like you kind of go that way, whereas this, like you've got sort of little bits in every single sort of thing. So you've got enough to make a decent resistant fire base, but then you've also got some little bits that make your like combat especially good, or your deep striking and then charging combat good. So I really like them as an all round chapter. I think that it's really good. I really like it.
It'd be an interesting thing that if Marines do get an adjustment, which isn't a sweeping adjustment, so if it's an adjustment to say how the Iron Hands chapter tactic works or how the doctrines work for specific chapters, Black Templars are an army that quite could rise up through the ranks.
Yeah, I think they're just all. I think they're just all around good.
Yeah,
they're not. I don't think they're overpowered or anything, but they've got like I said, they've got stuff in all the right places. You know, the defensive abilities of their new litany and that relic that gives everything a 4-up invuln if they're within. Was it within 3 inches?
Yeah, but it's not entirely within 3 inches.
Yeah, so you can like trail models off or just stick him right in between 2 vehicles or whatever you want to do. Like just that, having that defensive ability, and then also some like sort of little bits and bobs like the +1 to charge and re-rolling charges and like stuff like that. Like
Yeah, and the anti-psycho stuff is quite handy.
so you've got the anti-psycho stuff, you've got the stuff to lock people in combat. Like it's just a very good, almost feels like a Swiss Army knife army, which is nice. I like it.
Yeah, I do as well. So we will leave you there, and we will come back with a 2-part episode, because the first part of this ran on much longer than I think we both thought it was going to go, which is cool. We got some really good discussion out of it, I thought.
Yeah, it's been good.
We'll be back with part 2 of episode 2 whenever you choose to listen to the recording. See you then.
See you later. Bye.